A recent decision from the U.S. Army to cancel all support contracts for chapel services leaves Catholic chaplains without vital lay support and has sparked sharp criticism from the Archdiocese for the Military Services USA. Contracts for musicians, religious education coordinators, and administrators ended in early October. Other religious specialists will take their place, but Archbishop Timothy Broglio says they are not required to be Catholic and are not trained to be catechists. He also says soldiers cannot simply leave base for religious education because many live in remote areas or non-Christian countries. Broglio has promised to pursue all legal options against what he calls a grave misstep, one that infringes on the free exercise of religion for Army Catholics and burdens chaplains already stretched thin. According to a 2021 report from the research group RAND, there is only one Catholic chaplain for every 1,000 Catholic soldiers. But there are 6 Protestant chaplains for every 1,000 Protestant soldiers. That means Catholic chaplains serve 6 times the number of soldiers than their Protestant counterparts serve. What are the wider repercussions of the U.S. Army's decision to cancel chapel support contracts, and how will it impact faith formation on base and in the homes of our very military families who are sacrificing for us? We explore that topic with our next guest. Will Thibeau is a veteran of the Army's 75th Ranger Regiment, a devout Catholic, and serves as the director of the American Military Project at the Claremont Institute. Will, thank you so much for joining us for this important discussion. And I want to add even more context for our viewers here. A U.S. Army spokesperson told our sister news service, Catholic News Agency, it will re-examine its contract support to mitigate potential impact. But Archbishop Broglio, the Archdiocese for the Military Services USA, says that is not an adequate response. So, Will, first things first, as an Army veteran, as a devout Catholic, what is your reaction to this decision from the U.S. Army?
More so than anything, Catherine, I think I'm disappointed. The decision to cancel these contracts has a tangible effect on life for soldiers who are Catholic in the Army. And it's not an easy one to begin with. Imagine if you're a soldier, or even imagine you're a normal American and you're told that you have to change your parish every 2 to 3 years. That's hard enough given the demands of Army life. So I do think the Army, by its own mission, has an obligation to make the practice of faith, especially the Catholic faith, given how many soldiers are Catholic, as conducive and fruitful as possible. Without this critical support, it gets a lot harder because, as you also showed in the intro, Catholic priests are really hard to come by on military installations, and so they need all the support they can get. And that's okay to give them that support through government contracts.
And can you expand on that exact point, how this decision especially impacts Catholics and Catholic soldiers?
Of course. Again, one priest serves about 1,000 Catholic soldiers. That is beyond anything that, again, a civilian would experience in a Catholic diocese in America. The response from the chaplains corps in the Army was to have priests cover down on some of these services. But, many of us know, many of your viewers know that a priest already has a lot to do given the sacramental obligations of his ministry. To then ask him to plan the music liturgy, to plan religious education and sacramental preparation, that is a significant workload that bridges on the edge of impossible. And it is something that is uniquely a prospect for Catholics because of the sacramental nature of our faith. And so I do think there's a degree to which we need to evangelize our Protestant brothers and sisters in the Army and in the chaplains corps who are making these decisions to know that these are not meaningless kind of conveniences, but essential people who support Catholic faith formation.
You wrote on this very topic for Word on Fire this week, and I want to pull up part of your article. You write, this contract decision, compared to the scale of the persecution of Catholics in Nigeria and the widespread secularization of the West, is of modest importance. The decision does reveal, however, a troubling conception of faith in the public square taking hold, even in an era of politically muscular conservatism that should otherwise protect those of faith and public institutions. Can you expand on that? What are the wider implications of this decision from the U.S. Army?
Right. Well, I first wanted to give an acknowledgement that Christians, Catholics especially, face horrid persecution around the world. And so it's not meant to, try and position Catholics in the Army on that same playing field, but it is to showcase that the decision of the Army to cancel these contracts reveals a troubling reality about how they understand religious freedom. And this was even true on public comments on X, where they questioned how the cancellation of these contracts would inhibit a Catholic soldier from freely expressing his faith in uniform. But that is an inherently negative perception of religious freedom. And in reality, the chaplain's mission for the U.S. Army is to make soldiers as spiritually ready as possible for war. And that, frankly, from personal experience, requires a lot of spiritual fitness and spiritual readiness to be able to do the mission of which the country asks us. And so it's not merely about not getting in the way, but it is about an obligation to make the practice of the Catholic faith possible and flourishing on Army installations and for families who give so much of their lives to the nation through the service member, in their family.
That being said, what is your message to the U.S. Army and the administration on this?
My message, Catherine, is to not let this be the place where we cut costs. You cannot measure perhaps the value of these contracts in a return on investment or in a financial table that shows up neatly on the comptroller's spreadsheets. But you can be confident that Catholic families who earnestly want to serve in the Army for decades, that they will use these services, that they will need these men and women who want to serve as contractors to support the Chaplains Corps, because it is about retention for the military. It's about a devout Catholic in uniform understanding that service in the Army is a place where he can lead his family to also a vibrant faith life, can lead his family to sainthood. If soldiers, Catholic soldiers, start to question if that's possible, I think they might leave at increasing rates. And I don't think this administration, I don't think our Army wants to find out if that's true. I think we should give them everything they need so they don't have to make that hard choice.
Well, on that note, Will Thibeau, thank you so much for your service, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Catherine.